Hi, Linda. You talked a lot about being a fiscal conservative early in your opening remarks and even in the last question. These are all your pieces that we get almost every day. And I know you're spending your own money. In fact, there was one in the mail today. I know you're spending your own money on these, but if you're spending your money on this stuff that most people throw away, how do we know you're going to spend our taxpayer money responsibly when you get to Washington? It's not our money. That's what you want.
Okay, let her answer the question.
Well, I guess I'll say to you, I'll spend my money any way I please.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up to the government to tell me how to spend my money. And so, that you could throw away the flyers if you want, paper your kitchen with them. But really, that's my. I've run a company, very fiscally responsible, and running a public company, you are answerable to stockholders. And you are answerable to delivering a bottom line. And I think our government should operate more like a business and be concerned with delivering a bottom line.
Yes, Vivian?
I've been in politics a long time and have never supported Democrats. I would first like to know which Democrats you supported, and my second question to you, Linda, would be, we Republicans have had a real lack of honesty. When people are running their campaigns, they'll say one thing, and they get to Washington, and they do just the opposite. I would like to know why you are raising funds, or not raising funds, are funding your campaign and not having us, who would support you, fund your campaign. I think that if you can buy your way to that ticket, we don't have very much of a choice. But if we're the ones that are funding your campaign, then we have a lot more of a choice, because then you wouldn't be sending those out with your own money. You would only have our money.
Okay. Well, you can contribute up to $100. I do take individual contributions of up to $100 because I wanted those folks in my campaign to feel that they were making a contribution into the campaign. I have felt that I didn't want to take any special interest money. When you're talking about funding, if it was just individual contributions, I think that's one thing. But if you have special interest money, you have a Goldman Sachs that spends $1 million on a presidential campaign, or you have other big banks or big interests that are going to contribute for, I think, potentially a favorable vote. When you have big labor unions that are helping to fund campaigns, I took that as a positive that I was going to fund my own campaign and not take any of that special interest money. And I very much appreciate the fact I would rather have volunteers than money. Volunteers are making phone calls, knocking on doors, having a coffee, inviting a few of your friends to come, and I can speak to them and they can get to know me. I think those are really better ways, not necessarily better, alternative ways of supporting a candidate in any race, because you are really then out working to help get more votes and working with your friends, working with your neighbors, to help build, the party. And I actually have launched a website just last week called My Linda 2010, which is the purpose of having outreach to voters and to ID voters to help build the Republican Party here in the state, so we can elect more Republicans not only to our state but also to the federal government. Let me talk about the contributions that I made to Democrats. Before Rahm Emanuel was the devil incarnate, he has always been the brother of a man named Ari Emanuel. Ari Emanuel is the chairman and CEO of a large agency in California, not always been so large. He started as a smaller agency called Endeavor. He represented us represented WWE starting in the early 1990s. Throughout that time of that relationship, I've had requests for contributions back and forth for projects, for for the local symphony, for this or for that. And in turn, he has contributed to other projects that I've worked on, like Special Olympics and things like that. He called and asked me if I would contribute. His brother was running for Congress. I did not know Rahm Emanuel, but I did as a favor to Art. I think twice. I did that as and I gave other contributions to Rahm after he was with the DCCC. Ari again called and asked me if I'd meet his brother. Those were contributions made as a result of a business or personal relationship. I've contributed more to Republicans, and I've contributed to Republicans because I wanted them to win. And I supported Nancy Johnson and Chris Shays, Senator Thune. I can't
I didn't ask you the Republicans. I would like to know the Democrats that you supported and why. You have one, Rahm Emanuel. Who are the other ones?
I don't think I can remember any other ones.
Nancy Pelosi, by any chance?
I went to a dinner that Nancy was at once, and it was in the Dennis Playhouse in Connecticut, and she was the featured speaker at that dinner. But that was part of my reason for being there, was to talk about Smack Down Your Vote and how we were registering young people to be part of the process. And I spoke to Democrats and Republicans for Smack Down Your Vote. And since the year 2000, we have registered almost 1 million new young people to vote. So I'm proud of that.
I got two things. The first thing, Ronald Reagan was made fun of for his movie Bedtime for Bonzo. I don't think that hindered his ability to perform his duties as president or as governor. That's the first thing. Second thing, 2.5 hours ago, I went eyeball to eyeball with Rosa DeLauro down in Woodbridge. And I asked her a question, the same question I want to ask you. At several times I've seen you mention that you're going to spend whatever it takes to win the Senate. That is a good thing. The question I have is, if you were to spend up to, let's say, $50 million, and my friend Jim or Art or Bill or Tanya or Cliff wanted to run for Senate, and if they could get 50 people each to donate $1 million for their campaign, it is illegal for them to do it. That would put them at an equal footing with you or many other candidates, Tom Foley, in different leagues. My question is, if you go down as our senator, will you fight to repeal the campaign finance laws to allow future Reagans to be put up by millionaires backing them, rather than have to scrape and scratch for the little crumbs to try to get up to the top down?
I would like to see campaign, reform laws that would put everything on an equal footing. And if it were all on an equal footing, I would vote for that right away. The problem is it always has loopholes and this and that and the other. But if it were laid down to be equal across for everyone, I think that would be great.
Double question. You said you wouldn't take a salary if you were elected to Senate. I don't have a problem with the salary, but one thing I do want to know, would you enact legislation that all congressmen, senators would have to live under Social Security and pay into the system, and that all pensions would be revoked? Because they work for us, and if they want their pension, they can go buy an IRA like the rest of us. Question two, what are your thoughts on illegal immigration?
Those are two big questions. First of all, I think, as I said earlier, I believe that the members of Congress should be subject to the same rules and regulations that the rest of us are. However, having said that, there are a lot of government employees, state employees, all who have pensions, etc. So I think until you're ready for the point that you would be consistent across the board, it would be tough to exclude Congress. I would not personally be looking for that, but I think that we should look to 401ks and to have more independence. I think that the funding of pensions that we're looking at now is part of the reason why our economy is so upside down. We're really seeing that very hard in our state. And I think that I've heard most all of the candidates for governor